Hey guys, it's Marta. Welcome to my March garden. We just had incredible rain and today we'll talk about lawn care, mulching, and I will show you some beautiful spring blooms. Let's begin. Before we talk about work, let's see some blooms. I planted some beautiful plants here. So here in my planters, I've planted some pansies, some primulas, some hyacinths and some hellebores. I will show you more hellebores in the other part of the garden where they grow in the ground. But here are some new varieties. They are hyacinth roses type of hellebores. I absolutely love them. They are so prolific and they have so many blooms. Even after 1 year you've planted them. Really love them. They will, after this period being here, I will plant them there on my hellebore border. In my small pots, I've planted some tulips in the fall and they are growing really nicely. Remember, if you planted your bulb lasagnas or any bulbs in your pots, remember to water them now. They've been sheltered during the winter, but now they will need some moisture. And I've underplanted them with pansies. I absolutely love those colors. They are pastel, lilacs, some purples, gentle whites. I really like it. There are also a lot of bulbs in my borders, so a lot of crocuses and the hyacinths are starting to bloom. All of the crocuses are blooming. They are now closed because it was raining, but they've been blooming for some time now. Whenever I'm working here and I was cleaning this border, pruning my perovskia, I'm always checking my box for box caterpillar. If you miss those and they will start feeding on your box leaves, they will just eat it all. So you have to be very careful. Check if you see any caterpillars. If you see them, spray them with organic spray. In Polish it's called Lepinox, but in English you will find it as Xentari. And this is very good. When you spray it, they eat the leaves and they die, so you don't have the problem with the box moth. This is like a huge problem now in Poland, and I know in so many countries too. On the other side of this wall, I have my hyacinth border. I absolutely love this. This is a lot of color and a lot of scent in the spring. The scent is flowing everywhere. If you ever had your hyacinths in the house, you know that this scent can be overwhelming, but in the garden it's different. The scent is wandering around, and whenever you go, you feel this gentle, beautiful scent that is not overwhelming, so I really love it. I always get questions about this border because people see a lot of hyacinths and they always ask, what are you growing here later? So later we have, of course, we have my espalier apple tree, but also I have roses, we have peonies, and we have catmint. So a lot of blooms in the other part of the year too. Okay, now let's go into the other part of the garden. As you can see here, all of my borders are mulched. Let's talk about that, why I mulch with compost. Let's go. So, as you can see, all of my borders are mulched with compost. My garden wasn't always like that. It used to have landscape fabric on all of my borders, and then we had mulch that was made from the pine. And my plants weren't that happy. They used to have a lot of fungal disease. And one day I decided I wanted to make this border. This border was definitely lower, and we had 3 compost heaps that were just ready to use. So I decided to use this compost heap and make this border higher. I removed all of my landscape fabric and I planted a lot of roses and a lot of perennials straight into the compost. And the next year, this was the healthiest border of all of my borders. So I was like, okay, let's do that in the whole of the garden. So I removed 400 square meters of landscape fabric and I mulched my garden with compost. Of course, I do not make as much compost to do it all over the place, so I buy my compost elsewhere. But I started doing that and my garden started thriving. So that was one of the biggest changes I've made, and every year in the spring I mulched with fresh compost and the garden seems to love it. So I keep doing that. So why did this happen? So compost, when added to your border as a mulch, it helps to retain moisture. It lets all the microorganisms thrive and they are taking all the nutrients from the compost to the plants. The roots can grow freely because when you use landscape fabric, you will see that plants are rooting in a different way than in normal soil. You will see that the roots will be growing very close to the landscape fabric and they are growing like this. And for your roots, it would be definitely better to go like this, because then they will reach more water, they will be more resistant to drought. So I think that the removing of this fabric was really one of the best things I've done. And with compost, it also looks beautiful, but it's very, very healthy for your plants. But remember, when mulching with your compost, if you have ericaceous plants, so like hydrangeas or rhododendrons, it is better to mulch with something different or with compost that is more ericaceous. So that would be a compost made of, for example, pine needles. And you can do that by yourself. If you do not have that many plants like blueberries or rhododendrons, you can do it from the pine needles and make your own compost and mulch with that, because compost tends to be more alkaline than the other mulches. Talking about alkaline soil, I will show you my Hellebores, plants that love this kind of soil. Let's see how they bloom. So here you can see my Hellebores, and they are 3 years old, if you can believe that. This is the Ice and Roses series of Hellebores, which I absolutely love. This is like the most abundant in flowers. And I love how they look like. I've removed all of the leaves of the Hellebores because it is good to do in the spring, because then no disease will happen. The fresh leaves will grow very, very soon. And these are the plants that bloom first in my garden. Sometimes I can expect blooms even in November, definitely some in December, but they start in the end of February. This is like the main show, end of February until the end of April, but some of them still bloomed during the summer. And still you will get huge amount of beautiful green shiny leaves during the summer months. Hellebores are the plants that thrive in the semi-shade positions of your garden, so the best place to plant them is underneath the trees that have leaves. So in the winter they don't have leaves. Hellebores get a lot of light, and then in the summer, when there is scorching sun, they will get this nice shade from the leaf canopy of the trees. Just 2 days ago I planted some foxgloves here around, and we'll see that in May. I think it will look beautiful. A lot of plants there are the spring blooming. So we have a magnolia, we have, what else do we have? We have some poppies and some primroses. So I think in the next weeks we'll be enjoying more and more blooms here. Now let's go and talk about the lawn. Okay, let's talk about spring lawn care. It's one of my favorite jobs to be done in March. I start my lawn care when the grass is dry. This is the main thing. I wait, there is no rain for a few days, the grass is dry, and then I scarify my lawn. I rent a true powerhouse scarifier, like the professional one, very heavy, and I go with it lengthwise and widthwise. And it takes all of the gunk, you know, the dead debris out, and it rakes out all of the dry stuff from your grass. So all this gunk that is, I think it's called thatch, is reducing the ability for your lawn to take up nutrients, to take up water, to breathe properly. So when you remove that, you are giving it new life. You're also cutting the roots, so it will grow so much better. I really love doing that. But after that, you have a lot of dry stuff out. This scarifier that I use does not have any bin, so it is all left on the grass. Then I use my lawnmower set on the lower setting, so it is acting like a hoover, and it's taking that all in. I of course mulch all of that in my compost heap. And then after I took it all out with my lawnmower, I am still using my hands, and I'm raking all of the other debris that was left, but that is so much less work than doing that all by hand. Then I start edging my lawn. I absolutely love this job. I don't know why, it is so satisfying. You have this irregular line, and then you go with your moon-shaped iron, and then you're just using your feet. You are cutting your beautiful edges of your lawn. It looks so trimmed and so neat. I really like it. And then I take all of those cut grass patches. You can use it, of course, if you have some kind of holes, but if I have some more, I will still use it on my compost heap. It gives you beautiful compost later. Next step is fertilizing my lawn. So I fertilize my lawn every 5 to 6 weeks, but I used to do it every 4 weeks. Now we have those robots that are mowing the lawn every day, and they are leaving the grass clippings on the lawn. So I don't need to fertilize as often, and the lawn still looks beautiful. And those mowers that are mowing every day, they are doing that all the time. The grass is definitely better. I've seen such difference in the way that the grass leaves are, you know, placed. So I really think this is a nice way of reducing using the fertilizers too. So last year we had a visitor on our lawn. That was the mole, and the mole did a lot of damage to the lawn. I have problems here, and I had those in the front garden. So this part was patched with some soil, and then we sow the grass again, and I'm hoping, really hoping that now with this, all of this moisture and the rain that we had in the few days, and the temperatures are rising, this will look very green in just a few weeks' time. But when you're patching your lawn, maybe you didn't have a mole, maybe you have a dog that is peeing on your lawn. We had our dog that when she was old, she was peeing on the lawn, and we always had those patches. If you have a dog and you know you have a lot of ammonia in the pee, so then it is good to remove even the few centimeters of soil below that and put fresh soil there, and then sow the seeds. And sometimes when you're cutting your maybe your edges, you have some grass, and then you can also put it somewhere else. Still, you can go after the scarification and just sow the grass seeds among those that are growing, and they will also take and the lawn will be more lush and green in the summer. I'm still waiting with pruning my lavender and my stipas because we had some freezing temperatures during the night, which this is making me a bit nervous because we can see some color in our magnolia. I see some pink, and I'm really hoping we will not get any frost anymore because then they will be damaged. But the forecast is very promising. We see even 20 degrees Celsius in the next weekend. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be fine. She used to bloom for us at the end of April, and now we have just 20th of March. So this year definitely will be faster. So I'm crossing my fingers for no frost because, as you can see, thousands of buds are ready to bloom, and when she blooms, you've seen that last year, it looked incredible. I'm really curious about your thoughts about using the landscape fabric, mulching with compost, and how do you take care of your lawn during the spring months. And let me know what is blooming in your garden. This is the most exciting part. The more and more blooms will be appearing, and I just cannot wait for all of them. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one, hopefully with even more blooms. Bye!